Listener discretion is advised.
Ladies and gentlemen, Magister Kevin I. Slaughter.
Many workmen built a huge ball of masonry upon a mountain top. Then they went to the valley below and turned to behold their work. It is grand, they said. They loved the thing. Of a sudden it moved. It came upon them swiftly. It crushed them all to blood. But some had the opportunity to squeal.
Mr. Jeff P. Hale.
This is Jeff Hale, cigar connoisseur and free speech absolutist. The views expressed in this segment do not reflect the opinions of the Church of Satan or the Devil You Know podcast. They are exclusively and only mine. So don't go blaming John Shaw, you idiots. This past June, we witnessed not just a celebration, but what I would consider subjugation. As a Satanist, my duty is to question all things, be it past orthodoxies and accepted religions, or modern-day secular movements like the LGBTQ community. No one person or thing is above reproach. Man, after all, is a pattern-seeking primate. Therefore, I cannot ignore the rainbow-colored elephant in the room. The late Anton Zander LaVey stated in the Satanic Bible in chapter 6, Satanic Sex, quote, Satanism condones any type of sexual activity which properly satisfies your individual desires, be it heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, or even asexual if you choose, end quote. While I may accept the individual's desires, I'm not expected nor bound to carry their banner or engage in what I see to be nothing short of a political movement or cause, and not just a celebration of love. The latter of which seems negated by the venom that's aimed towards any and all dissenters. Thought police have, to one degree or another, existed throughout time. They have taken on many forms. In the 1980s, the evangelical right carried that torch. Currently, it would seem as though a new secular religion has taken up that torch and are ready to burn any and all heretics at the stake who question their dogma. While it is true that gays, lesbians, and trans people dealt with oppression under the law and culturally at one time, it would seem as though those days either ceased to exist in 2019 or the cases where they are persecuted are few and far between. We've got to remember, the devil is always in the details. Unless you can show me a law on the books that discriminates against a person based on their sexual orientation, you're just chasing phantoms. It is impossible to legislate hate out of the hearts of man. So many activists have turned to other tactics, like shaming them into the ether and out of a job. This zealot-like behavior is something, as a Satanist, I abhor. Not to mention, those who they deem as being anti-LGBTQ continues to change at an almost exponential rate, much like how anyone to the right of Karl Marx today is considered a Nazi to many. I find it strange that immutable characteristics are something to be proud of. Certainly, an individual's pride is subjective, but it would seem as though for many, their sexual proclivities are a substitute for a personality. Satanism has always been about avoiding the pitfalls of herd mentalities. Today, with big tech oligarchs censoring people for misgendering or dead-naming someone, angry mobs ready to do battle in the streets with so-called bigots, countless corporations celebrating Pride Month, and laws on the books protecting people from sexual discrimination, it would appear as though they are now part of the very herd that they claim to despise. When financial institutions begin closing the accounts of trans people, get back with me. For many who hold mainstream conservative views, this has already become a reality. In fact, the British Columbia Supreme Court has ruled that misgendering kids and preventing transitioning can constitute child abuse. In fact, here in the U.S., Vermont health insurance regulators are planning to tweak Medicaid rules so transgender youth no longer have to wait until age 21 to seek gender-affirming surgery, and it will be up to the taxpayers to carry this burden. This is the slippery slope that concerns me and is generally applauded by many within the LGBTQ community. We went far beyond your right to exist and are treading in the murky waters that go against not only the Constitution, but my individual rights as someone who is free under the law to engage in what many would deem as hate speech. As a Satanist, free thinker, and proud United States citizen, I cannot sit quietly by and allow this to happen without blaspheming the sacred cows of this new religion. The hypersexualization of children is also something I've watched in real time become increasingly normalized within the LGBTQ circles, and that too is alarming. Children should be revered as they are the world's natural magicians. A TED Talk from 2018 entitled "Why Our Perception of Pedophilia Has to Change" alarmed many, and rightfully so. Normalizing such behavior and attempting to make it part of the LGBTQ equation is something we, as Satanists, should be vehemently against, as it directly violates rule number 9 of the 11 satanic rules of the earth. Satanism is more than just sexual freedom, but it would seem as though some would like to boil it down to the lowest common denominator. We are the elite, and we should always be striving for our highest human potential. Be proud of who you are, but be sure you're not stifling others' freedoms in the process, and you're gazing through an objective lens when observing the world and its inhabitants around you, and never fall victim to that dreadful sin of self-deceit. Until next time, hail Satan.
How's it going, fellas?
What's happening, everybody?
Nice.
Welcome to the Devil.
Very special guest today, huh, Adam?
Excellent. How you doing?
Totally metal guest today.
Totally metal. Right. Well, let me tell you a little bit about this guy. Our guest today has been a very influential musician by younger years. I remember blasting his cassettes in my car on the way to high school. He's written some very satanic albums, including albums with contributions from Magus Gilmore. He has a badass current project that we'll give a little listen to and discuss, and I think it's awesome. You guys have heard it. Please give a grand, unholy welcome to Mr. Vincent Crowley.
How's it going, brother?
How's it going?
Going
It's an honor and pleasure to have you.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Jeff Hale's actually turned me on to your podcast. I was really interested to hear it.
He's an interesting guy.
Awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
He is.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on here, man. We've listened to your current project, which we'll talk about in a little while, man. But it's refreshing to know that you're still out there doing what you do best.
And of course, we know you're from Acheron, so.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that baby got put to rest last year, and I just had other ideas I wanted to do and different concepts and music I wanted to kind of go into, and Acheron ended on a really high note. We played a lot of places, put out probably our best album the whole career for the last release, and I just thought it was time to go, do some other stuff that, the same views I have in a different kind of arena.
Nice. Perfect.
Yeah.
What's
so
the
Acheron,
there's major differences in your sound now, isn't there, than what you used to? Obviously, a big difference between Infidel, Reich, and Acheron.
Well, I think with Infidel, it's we're going more. It's influenced by everything that kind of I grew up with, Venom and Motorhead, and
Right.
the Swedish death metal scene and Discharge and stuff like that. Carnivore, of course, is a big influence. It was kind of taken. Actually, it was kind of a brainchild of me and our drummer Bob, who played for Asphyx at the time. I've known Bob since like the early '90s, and we happened to play a festival with Asphyx when I was in Acheron in Holland, and we always kind of joked about like doing a band together, and we tended to get hit by the same press labeling us as certain things that everybody likes to get called nowadays, and we thought it'd be funny to kind of give them a punch right in the face and do something,
What do they call you?
Even more.
What do they call you? Like bigot? What do they call you? That's
the N-word that everybody is nowadays. It doesn't matter if you're white, black, Mexican, Chinese. If you you don't see the extreme right or left view, you're a Nazi. So, it's been I mean, we actually have gotten kicked off festivals and stuff like that because of shit talkers. So, it has been a problem to some, degree in the past. So, we're looking to kind of get people's minds together and say, okay, this is enough. If you guys didn't like the extreme right, what's the difference with the extreme left, which is doing the same thing, trying to force these views down people's throats? It's just as insane.
Right. Welcome to 2019.
It's insane, all right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but musically, it's more just like heavy and thrashier, and just kind of. Asheron was more obviously, dark and, satanic and stuff like that. And our lyrics are definitely, there's some tongue-in-cheek stuff, but they pretty much state our views about certain things that, some people don't want to talk about. And
Right.
about time they get the spoonful of medicine we need to give them.
I feel like Acheron, I mean, obviously you guys came up in the same as a lot of like the South Florida death metal bands. Like you guys kind of were that same sort of vibe as far as your sound, whereas Infidel now is more, I don't know, it's just more punchier, more in your face, kind of.
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, the good thing about Infidel, it has that old school death metal, but it has a kind of a punk element to it where it's, like bands like SOD and Carnivore and stuff, it just has that thing that makes you want to throw your elbows in the pit and just, hit some people.
That's what John feels like doing right now, actually.
That's not true. That's not true. Stop spreading lies about me.
Enough of them.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Plus, I did Acheron for 30 years, and I think I've done everything possible satanically I could do, and the conceptual things and lyrics. And I don't want to beat a dead horse. I know bands that do the same album year after year after year after year. I kind of like to keep fresh. I don't ever want to play songs that I'm just like, I'm saying that again.
Right.
Let's move on to something else I want to get out there.
That's great. I like that. The early years of Acheron, like the rites of the Black Mass, it was a real influential time for me, reading the Satanic Bible and listening to that album, being a youngster, and it just really solidified the whole concept with me, the whole philosophy, and it was very influential for me. And then Anti-God, Antichrist as well, another great album. 2 albums. It's an honor to have you on here, really, because they were 2 very influential albums for me. And then to hear Infidel Reich, your newer 5-song EP, it's a great album, and I'm looking forward to the new one. So when's the new one coming out?
It's due out in September on Helter Skelter Regain Records, and it was supposed to be out in August. It got delayed a month for some kind of, I guess that's the best time to release new albums. So they've moved it to September, but it's been done for a while now, and we've been sitting on our hands going crazy, just want to get it out there because we're pretty proud of what the outcome came. And it's such a great thing because I'm here in the States and everybody else is over in Holland, and I'm recording my parts over here, they're recording their parts over there, we send back and forth. So I've only actually met the drummer in the band, so I haven't even met the other guys in person yet. So so it's
that's 2019 recording
where,
there.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully our next album, the band Marduk, I guess, are fans of the Infidel Reich stuff, and they were talking to the other guys and were saying they would love to have us come record at their studio. So
no strangers to controversy there.
Absolutely. I always said that if we had a tour to do, that would be the one to
do. They'd ban you in half the countries, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
Some of them here.
The crazy thing is, it's everybody from promoters to magazines to record labels people that, I'm doing deals with stuff for Acheron, and then I mention, hey, what are you guys thinking about, signing new bands? I have a new band. Check this out. And the first thing is, well, you have the name Reich in your band. That's a big red flag. And we can't. It's like, it's a fucking name. Sacred Reich came out, back in the 80s.
Yeah.
They're still playing. If they wanted to get deep into why we use the name, that would explain the whole concept of the band. Because, when we were thinking the names, first thing that came to mind, I was like, we need 2 words that just trigger everybody. And they're going to like automatically think shit. Infidel has been the big thing with the whole Muslim thing. And Reich is obviously, everyone just goes to one thing with the Reich. The funny thing is, it's like, infidels for a long time were considered to be like the Christians. And I'm like, so I'm about as much of a Nazi as I am a Christian. So how would I be either one of these things? So
back when we were growing up,
well, if you really look at the origin of the word Reich would just be kingdom in German, right?
Exactly. It's realm, it's
they don't want to hear that. It's how it makes you feel.
Yeah. It's a PC ploy to shove down everybody's throat. And it's getting, I get a headache every day hearing someone getting offended about this or they're offended. It means it's a big bunch of pussies out there. And I just can't take it anymore. So this is like a really good release for me, because if not, I'm going to end up punching people in the face.
When we were growing up, man, it was always sticks and stones break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And now it's like words hurt me, and I'm going to beat you with sticks and stones. It's like,
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, they're not even going to do that. They're going to get you banned from something, or the internet, or from somehow you're going to be excluded. Like, this is how SJWs have worked now. Is they've taken any concept and they say, this goes on this shelf. You're not allowed to question it. You're not allowed to make a joke about it. If you do, you're a hater. If you question it at all, it's not just opening the gates to conversation. It's you're a Nazi, and you're not allowed to do that, because we've decided to lift them up there, and they're untouchable now. And it's
absolutely. It's funny because I've seen the scene, the music scene, the whole satanic scene, things have changed so much since like the 80s and the 90s. It's like a whole different world out there anymore. And I can't believe there's so many people. The world has breeded weak creatures. It's just like, and the funny thing is, it's like most of these people that are whining now are these, upper class college kids that, mommy and daddy pay for their way to go to college, and they get bored and they want to protest shit. And they want to be on the team that's the underdog, supposedly. And it's very old. And I'm just waiting for everybody to just get totally sick of everything and then say, okay, this is enough. We can't let this happen. And it's going to happen eventually. It's just how it's going to happen that way. It might be a big
pendulum swinging. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything comes back around.
So then, in the late '80s and '90s, were you guys more targeted as being a satanic band with the whole satanic panic?
Yeah, it was actually fun. I actually got a kick out of it. When we started off, we were a bunch of, young guys that, we were more concerned in drinking and blaspheming and just having a good time and offending people. And then when I really started to get deeper into Satanism and I got involved with the Church of Satan, then I, kind of buckled down and tried to kind of go down the path and then like kind of present it in a more realistic form. And that's why we did the first album, Rites of the Black Mass, because, very first time the actual texts and manuscripts of the Black Mass was used as the lyrics throughout the whole album. And, it kind of cracks me up because I'll look at all these magazines where I'll say, most satanic bands, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I don't recall any other bands that have done a Black Mass for their album. So we're always somehow left out of that. And it's like, just say who's the most popular satanic bands,
Right.
I mean, we did break ground there, and I'm pretty proud of that. And, you know, working with Peter at the time, we had a link with the Church of Satan. Dr. LeVay was, you know, very supportive and stuff. And, you know, at that time, metal was kind of like a bad word to the Church of Satan. You know, they automatically kind of thought, well, you got these, you know, kids doing, you know, vandalism or smoking dope, and, you know, just, you know, they just think your typical, you know, Hollywood version of what heavy metal was.
Yeah.
Where I knew there was a lot of people out there, a lot of kids that were intelligent and could resonate to the idea of what, you know, the philosophy was.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I think it's pretty
But,
groundbreaking, man. I think it's you know, to not be included in the most satanic band list is just blasphemy, is what I think it is.
Yeah.
Crazy to me.
Well, it's funny because, like, a lot of these people that, you know, have claimed to be all these unholy satanic, you know, beings back in the day are, you know, retracting what they were, you know, before.
Yeah, some of them are,
you know,
like Blackie Lawless is a Christian now, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I'm friends with Glenn Benton, and, you know, he obviously says, no, I'm not, you know, I'm an anti-Christian, I'm not satanic. And, you know, back in the day, he wasn't saying that. And, you know, hey, he played the part, he made, you know, a living at it, still does. You know, he plays great music, but the fact is, he wasn't the real deal either, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
He went to great
Absolutely
stakes putting that cross on his forehead.
Yeah. He was dedicated, I guess. You know, if he wasn't, he sure played the part, you know.
Right. Huh.
Oh.
I think we should
it's
some,
Over time. Yeah, let's hear some music.
you should hear some of it. Yeah. So, what song would you like to play off the EP?
whatever one you want, brothers.
My favorite's Koranicide.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's a good choice.
Well, then let's do that.
Let's play it.
Tyrannicide!
Love it.
Come on.
And it's
Heavy shit, man.
and it's
It is. It's fucking holy shit.
You gonna burn the Quran on stage like you used to burn the Bible?
Yeah, man, do it.
we've actually I've done that already, so we've it's already been done.
Wipe your
But
hiney.
it's so funny you played that song because today there was a little incident at the post office which was pretty funny. I checked my PO box and I just happened to have to pay my fee for the year, and I'm in line, and the area my PO box is in, there's a decent amount of Muslims that live in that area, and I was in line. There's a couple Muslims in the full religious attire, the gowns and stuff, and there's
Burqa.
a couple people in front of me, and I these guys are like laughing and they're like kind of looking over my way, and there's a guy in front of me, an African guy, because these are like kind of the African Muslims, and all of a sudden he goes, "Hey, if you think that's so funny, why don't you say that to him?" And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Well, they're just saying that you're a stupid American, and look at all those dumb things on his arm." And I go, "Oh, really?" I just smiled at him and I said, "Well, at least I speak English, and I don't wear dresses like women." And their faces just like looked down, and they wouldn't say nothing. And I laughed at them, and went on my way. And I talked to the African guy, and he's like, "Please don't judge me, Africans, from what these people are." I'm like, "Dude, you're good in my book." You know what I mean? It's like you had the balls to call out these jerks.
Yeah,
But
that was cool.
that's another thing where they they make it like these religious types are so like, well, Islam is the peaceful religion, and that's a bunch of bullshit. They stir up shit for the most part, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them do, and they're rude, and that's why that song was written right there.
That sounds familiar, but yeah, I hear you.
I got a great idea actually for that song live. You ever seen those guys that they do the paintings on stage with their finger paint and they end up turning it upside down and it's Jesus? We could do we could do Muhammad. Isn't that the one you can't draw him right on stage, so we can just do it on stage.
Right.
Yep, that'll go over like a fart in church. That's great.
They should be used to farts in church. There's a bunch of shit in there anyway.
With all their left hands, they smell like shit.
Exactly.
Oh shit.
Oh man. The infidel.
But yeah, it's funny because I always thought it's funny that you can totally blaspheme Christianity, but don't talk about Islam and don't talk about Judaism where you're a racist. And I never knew those were races. I always thought they were
Right.
religious.
Well, it took us a while. They're just new here. Christianity's been around here for enough. So once it's been here long enough and people get tired of their shit, then we'll be able to mock them all the time as well.
Yeah.
And other groups.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many groups nowadays. I don't know even who to dislike because they pop up new every day.
Yeah.
Tomorrow some guy can be a Martian hermaphrodite from whatever and start his own group and cult. And
It'll be a new minority. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's all going to be my fault. Don't worry about it.
Hermaphrodites.
Yeah. It's just funny. I think how logic has totally been washed away, and science and reality is totally lost now. I mean, people just want to make up their own realities, and you go to a hospital now. Yeah, I mean, you go to a hospital now. They have a paper that says what gender are you, and there's like 7 different slots. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like, are you really? You want to do that in the make-believe world? That's fine, but if you
what are they? Because I mean, I don't even know what the other ones are called in those slots.
Oh, there was a bunch. I told my
Pan American something, or I don't know what it is, but Polypan or something. I went on Amazon. I saw a T-shirt about I'm a non-binary polyam or something or whatever, and then it said on the bottom, pick your size, and you click on it, and it says man or woman.
Great.
Oh man, that's funny. But hey,
That's
you know,
that's a lot of what everybody's dealing with these days, and I think musically, there are bands that want to express that, but like I said, the industry is so kind of derailed right now, and they're like being so kind of cautious about things. It just really sucks, because I mean, when groups like Antifa can shut down shows and put bogus rumors about people and lies and attack people for no reason, I mean, and then no one's doing anything about it. Yeah, there's a problem right now for sure.
clown world, man.
Mm-hmm.
Really weird. And it's getting into everything.
I think a lot of people are like, especially you get a lot of younger people are just so, rather than accomplishing anything, they're so desperate for some sort of identity, and so it's whatever the new bandwagon is to jump on, and eventually people get tired of that bandwagon, and something new pops up, and happened before, and it'll happen again.
Absolutely, and it doesn't matter. It's I always thought it was funny when we would get, labeled like that. And I'm like, I've been to like 10 different countries last year that were all non-white. So I must be like the stupidest Nazi in the world,
Nice.
So it just doesn't, it's just ridiculous now about that stuff. And they are, as much as people are kind of talking shit about them, they're still making an impact, and it's literally crazy. And I had heard that they came and attacked some people in the Church of Satan from back in the 90s on the Antifa list and whatever, and like, these people just have nothing better to do.
Yeah.
No, they're definitely not getting laid.
Some of us have been on the Antifa list.
Yeah.
Like, it's a big deal. Well, how's that a big deal? They tell you where your address is. So?
Right.
Like, okay, come on over.
I got a bullet figure.
Yeah. It's so messed up, man.
I'll introduce them to my firearms.
What do you do? Yeah,
Exactly.
totally. Anyway, it's just crazy.
Right.
So, Vincent, how old were you when you got into Satanism?
Well, I got interested in it when I was probably around 13. It's when I got the Satanic Bible, and funny thing is, it's like, I remember me and my friend going to the mall, and his mother had a copy of it, and was like, oh, you can't read this. This is like all this evil stuff in it, and da-da-da, and, we're like, wow, this is the shit right in front of us. We got to get this. And I remember taking it home and going, so where's all the fucking fucked up shit?
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I'd like, when you're that young, you read it, it's like, oh, that's cool, whatever. But, when I got older, rereading it, and then it started to resonate when you get past the adolescent, just chaos rebellion phase, and you're like, wow, this does resemble what I believe and how I live. So, I'd say probably at 20 is when I really kind of hit that mark of, really understanding what Satanism was and start to try to apply it in my life.
Right on, man.
Did you share that with family and friends, and let them know that you've taken on the moniker of Satanist?
Yeah. It's weird because I grew up in a very Christian household, and
Me too.
Them too.
I mean, I always tell people if I didn't grow up in a Christian household, the blasphemy wouldn't be as fun.
Right?
That's the whole point. You're kind of like exercising your past, And first they, definitely weren't into it. They judged me as myself, but they didn't want to, anytime that topic came up, there'd be an argument or, debate that was not going to go anywhere. But later in time, when I got older and they got older, and they were like realizing I wasn't what the church was telling them I was, and to this day, I get along with my parents really good now, and they respect what I do, and it's obviously they don't agree with the whole satanic part, but they don't give me a lecture every time I talk to them either now.
Yeah, that's good.
Right on, man. So what's next for the band? Obviously, you got another album coming out. Are you guys planning your next tour? I know you talked about Marduk as far as recording with them, but you talk about touring or anything?
Well, this is not really going to be a touring band. We'll probably just do festivals when they pop up that we can do. It's because actually I have two other projects in the works right now with people here in the States. So I'm doing a solo thing where basically it's kind of taking over where Asheron left off, but it's going to be more just dark topics, a lot of horror influence stuff, and a lot more slow, heavy
Did you say
stuff.
horror or horror?
Horror.
Oh, okay.
Not
Cool.
horror.
Just wanted to make sure.
Horror rock is my favorite.
Music.
Yeah. Nice.
So that's something I'm working on right now, trying to get prepared, go in the studio and record some stuff to start, sending the record labels and try to get a new deal.
Yeah.
But
Bring
I'm
it out to Phoenix, man.
pretty busy. Huh?
To bring it out to Phoenix.
Oh, I'd love to. I mean, it's weird because it's like in the States, it's really hard. Like there's so many shows that are like hit and miss. We'll play some places that we think is going to be great and they suck. And then we play some places like, oh, let's get this over with, and it's packed. And it's just like the States are a really weird scene. And I noticed that because when we go overseas, to other countries or whatever, it's just totally different. I mean, we'll play these third world countries that pack a place that a bigger band would be playing here, and it's just amazing. I think Americans kids are just like so spoiled nowadays, and they've kind of lost the whole idea of supporting music, where some of those poorer countries they appreciate everything they get, and it's just the way it is, I guess.
It is strange. I mean, it's nice that somewhere they're still keeping metal alive, and it's good to see like some of the big festivals and stuff. Like, definitely makes you want to go spend more time over in Europe, where you got a big metal festival every weekend somewhere. And it's like, why does nobody do that here? It just sucks that that's all kind of fading away.
It's funny because we played the Maryland Death Fest a couple years ago, and it was kind of like the old, remember the old Milwaukee Metal Fest? It was like, packed house, a lot of great bands were playing, and I was like, I don't understand why more of those aren't kind of floating around different, states and trying to do stuff like that, because I think, because nowadays too, if you're a band and you're touring and you just have an opener, a lot of people don't go out to see you. They always want those big package deals, You need 3 major bands playing on one bill to get people to come out of their houses and actually spend some money.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that in the States right now. But hopefully it'll change.
Yeah.
Vincent, we have this question we ask of everybody that comes on the show, and I just want to get your take on it. It is, what does Satan mean to you?
It's funny because I always hear people like give the answer to those questions.
Wait, you listen to the show?
I always kind of say, huh?
You listen to the show?
Well, I've heard. No, this has been like when people explain what Satan is, to them.
Yeah.
And, throughout the years, I've heard, people ask that. I always consider it like that. they always say that angel and that devil on your shoulder. And it's like, I think it's like when you resonate to the archetype of Satan, there is no angel on your shoulders, just two devils whisper in both ears. And you're just, as Bon Scott said, you know, I'm all ears. You know, it's being yourself, you know, being true to yourself, and it's, you know, trying to live your life to the best as you can, you know, and doing the things you want to do, you know. You know, in life, there's a lot of people that get stuck, and, you know, not everybody is an artist or a musician or, you know, an expert in something, but you have to have something in you to kind of carry you forward, whether that be, you know, your family, your dog, you know, traveling, or you need to set things that for yourself. I think with Satanism is you try to fulfill all those things in you that you need to do at one point, you know, whether it be a year down the road, you know, tomorrow. It's just not being a procrastinator. I mean, I think the real satanic kind of way is like you don't say you're going to do, you know. But that's kind of what my interpretation of Satan would be.
Nice.
Right on.
I like that.
Yeah, me too. I can relate.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, you know, talk about Infidel Reich, you know,
Yeah.
since it's not outwardly satanic, everyone's like, oh, he's not in the Satanism anymore. It's like, you know, I'm
It's
the
just
same
what
person.
you are. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the problem, you know, when people think you have to wear black all the time and pentagrams and robes, and it's like go to the grocery store and, you know, all
Right.
the ritual attire. You know, I can sit around in a Leonard Skinner shirt and I'm just as satanic as, you know,
Yep.
the guy, you know, going to a black mass. You know, it's just, that's what Satanism is. I mean, you're being your true self and doing what you want.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of those people wearing the hoods and stuff nowadays are a bunch of posers. And, you know, I'm kind of disgusted with a lot of the scene nowadays. I mean, if everybody comes to me and goes, what'd you think of the, you know, the sabbatic goat getting put on the stairs? And I was like, well, I thought the Ten Commandments was stupid, so I don't know why I would think that would be cool too.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, I think, you know, religion should be kept behind the wall, and, you know, kind of like where I am today, opposed to when I was in the Church of Satan. I don't consider Satanism a religion. I consider it a way of life, a philosophy, and, you know, it's just a part of somebody. And I think that's what LaVey really meant when he was writing that. You know, I know he created the Church of Satan, got the, you know, the word out, you know, got media attention, sold books, but, you know, that was his dream and that was what he did. But if you read the Satanic Bible, it's not about, you know, being a member of something, getting a rank, doing this, making sure you stay in line with everything. It's, you know, living your life and being true, you know, to yourself.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. I think we are all in agreement with that.
Yeah, and I just think it's funny because the you know, there's a lot of liberal ideas in Satanism, but it's gotten so far left. It's like ridiculous. It's kind of like, I don't know, in the 90s, it kind of took a more militant approach, and that's why I got really, you know, kind of interested in it. And it was more being, you know, survival of the fittest, you know, you work, you create, you know, it's, you know, if you don't pull your weight, you're getting dropped behind. You know, that's the way it was. Now it's like, you know, here, come with us, we'll pull you if we need to.
Oh, fucking hold hands.
Right, exactly. And that's just not what I'm about anymore. You know, it's I don't know. It's just a weird thing. You know, I still resonate to the, you know, LaVey's work, but like I tell many people, not everything LaVey wrote I agreed with, and I don't think he expected us to. You know, because a lot of his books were his personal opinions. It wasn't like, hey, you got to be exactly like me. You got to wear an old brim hat. You have to like this music. You have to do this. That was his,
Right.
personal choices, and that's what he was trying to like explain what he enjoyed and his experiences. In the late, very late 90s, early 2000s, it was just like a bunch of, I want to be Anton LaVey now that he's dead, and let's mimic everything he's done. And that's not Satanism to me. It just isn't.
Right.
Oh, man.
Right. You're an interesting devil.
Yes, sir.
But you're now a devil we know. That's good. Thank you for coming on the show, man, and giving us permission to play your song there. And it's just good stuff, man. We wish you much luck and much success.
Yeah.
Well, same to you. It was great talking to you guys, and hopefully this podcast hits 1 million.
That'd be great.
What's the best links for people to check you out? Check out your music.
As much as I hate it, I think the best links are just going to Facebook, and if you look up Spotify, actually I do think they have the Infidel on there. I know they have the Asheron stuff.
I was listening to it today. Actually.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. So, but Facebook, if you look up my other band are Vincent Crowley, and then another band is One with Darkness, which will be another project I'll be coming out with soon.
Cool. Look forward to it.
Appreciate it, guys.
Let's
Yep.
close out the show with Generation So Fake. It's a great song.
Thank you.
Till next time, everyone. Hail Satan.
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan.
of shit!